Hi, Jim.
Hi, Fatin. How you doing today?
I'm good. Jim, in today's episode, we will tap into the topic of modern diet. We live in Dubai. Everything is at, the tip of our fingers, one click away. Food, especially, right? You see
Right.
all these options of fast food. And in our last episode, you started talking about empty calories. Can you give us examples of these empty calories? What do you mean by that? Are they the same like fast food options that we see?
Uh, let's define empty calories, and I'll show you how
Yeah,
fast food does play a part in it, but they're also related to things like ultra processed food. So
yeah.
they're
That's your
they're
word.
similar but different. But the empty calories
What's
part
empty calories?
means something that is very caloric, right? Really high in calories,
Right.
but has very little nutritional value,
Mm,
right? So basically, it's like taking water and pouring a bunch of sugar and drinking it, right? You're not going to get any nutritional value out of that other than the fact that you're consuming a great deal of sugar. And basically, let's face it, that's what soda is. It's high fructose syrup poured into water and some artificial flavoring and coloring thrown into it, and we drink it, right? That's what it
right.
is. So sodas is actually, everyone I think knows that sodas are bad for you. And that's a classic example of an empty calorie. Another example that people don't actually usually think about would be like fruit juice, right?
Fruit juice. What's
Fruit
so
juice.
wrong? It's fruit and juice.
Well, it's no longer
We
fruit.
live in Dubai. It
It's,
gets really hot in the
we
summer.
squeeze it out, so it's no longer fruit. Really, the problem is to create in like an 8 ounce glass of orange juice or apple juice, you're literally drinking the equivalent of 4 or 5 pieces of that fruit.
Right.
So take the amount of sugar and fructose in one
Right.
and multiply it by 4. It's a very high
Okay.
number.
Big. Yeah.
Then what we've done is because it's been squeezed,
Mm-hmm.
we've removed all the fiber from it.
Okay.
Okay. Now that's really important because, I don't know if the audience is aware of it, but what happens is too much sugar, which is converted into glucose in the body, right?
Right.
All fructose, all the doses, right?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
get converted into carbohydrates too. They
Right.
all get, particularly simple ones, get converted into glucose.
Glucose.
We need glucose to power our muscles and all, but too much glucose is actually toxic for us. So the body has a response to that.
Mm-hmm.
If our glucose levels elevate high enough, we start really releasing insulin.
Insulin.
And insulin then it's actually a hormone. It actually does a lot of things, but one of its primary things is to maintain a healthy level of glucose in our blood system. Right.
Right.
It also helps shunt muscle development and
Mm-hmm.
recovery, insulin and fat. But really, its main purpose is to stop glucose from killing us. Right.
Oh
So it's
my
a pretty
God. Yeah.
important thing.
Yeah.
So basically, when we strip out fiber, the sugar's hitting us like a freight train. So our pancreas starts just pumping out insulin to bring it up, right? So both of them, it's way up here. Now the insulin's way up here, it brings it down. And often then what you get is a crash. We've all heard of the
Yeah.
crash, right? And a half hour later, you're falling asleep. Well, that's because you're actually now, all that insulin drove your blood sugar even lower. And
Right.
now we get this yo-yo effect. You'll often see when people drink soda, they drink it, they get full of energy,
And
they
then
get tired of the
more.
crash, so they
Yeah.
drink some more soda or more juice, right? And then
It's
we
like
do this roller
addiction.
coaster
Yeah.
all day. Yeah.
Right.
Well, fiber, right? This is what we've done. So we basically, what fiber does is if fiber is ingested
Right.
with sugar or glucose, right? It blunts that effect of the glucose entering your system. So
Mm.
in other words, when it hits your stomach,
Okay.
because fiber's there, it slows that penetration through our uh, intestinal wall in our stomach and hitting our blood system. So now
Okay.
we don't get that crazy spike. It's a nice gradual spike that our body can handle really well. And now we can, get all the nutrients out of there and it's, much healthier. So basically what we've done is we've taken a great food and turned it into junk food
Oh, okay. So
and
we're not
sugar.
just talking about pre-packed juices, also juice that we
Well,
make at home. Just eat an apple instead of
eggs.
juice for.
Now, in all fairness, I painted a pretty ugly picture for fruit juice, and it is.
Okay.
But
How
you
can
know,
we make it prettier?
well, what I'm just saying is, particularly children tend to be the ones
Yes.
doing more juices than anyone else.
Right.
It's not going to be the end of the world if your child once or twice a week has a little bit of fruit juice, right? I mean, where it gets bad is when we're doing this every day and we're doing it repeatedly, right?
Right.
So all about dose, right?
It's all
Everything's
about
about dose
consumption, how much we take.
and being smart about it. We don't want, if your child loves orange juice,
Yeah.
I'm not telling her, make her feel guilty and right that we don't want to have people have bad relationships with food, but as a
But especially
parent, we've got to be
children.
smart about it, right?
Right.
So don't we give her every day. Maybe we make it a reward once or twice a week, or once a week we put it in her lunch when she goes to school.
Right.
But the rest of the week we use milk or water or things that are healthier.
Speaking of children, you know that I'm a mother of a 5-year-old beautiful girl,
Yes.
Alia. Yeah, and she goes to nursery. Actually, she just finished nursery, and it's a struggle really to prepare her lunchbox. You have to include the breakfast, the snack, the her lunch, and I'm a very hands-on mother. Like I want to read about the safest options for lunch boxes and all. And I also know that especially for children, the same for us adults or the elderly, I think we have to pack our food or lunch boxes with protein. Can you help us out here?
Yeah.
Can you give us like good options
Well,
to include for children in lunch boxes?
for this answer, we got to unpack two things.
Let's do that.
Okay. So the first one is the prevalence of ultra processed food.
Mm.
This is sadly particularly bad for children, right? Because you get the snackables and you've got the hot pockets so you get this pre-processed
Chicken
food,
nuggets.
chicken nuggets,
Okay.
right? But we're all of that included. Fast food is tons of ultra processed food, but I'm thinking specifically here, right,
Okay.
with for children, right? Because what we've done is parents, the commoditization again
Mm-hmm.
of our diet.
Okay.
They know parents are busy. So they take the opportunity to, give you the little cereal that's all sugar,
Mm.
little cereal packs that you can put in their lunchbox, or like I said, the Lunchables that are all that food is ultra processed food. It's got stabilizers and sugars and some ultra processed foods are the equivalent almost of a zero all these calories and
Empty
no
calories.
it's the same thing
Mm.
because all there's is chemicals and sugar, right? So
What are the alternatives?
that's it.
Yeah.
Well, Whole Foods, right?
Whole
We got to go back
Foods.
to the basics. I'm older than you are, but I remember when I was a child,
You don't look
right?
it. Okay.
Right. So when I was a child,
Mm-hmm.
they served something. Basically, mom gave you a bag, and there wasn't the extent of the ultra processed food for children. So basically what you got was you got a sandwich of some sort, right? That rotated. You might have a chicken sandwich one day, a turkey sandwich another, whatever it may be, a little roast beef sandwich, right? You got some vegetables, you got your carrots or your pears, maybe a little thing of pears, and then you got a little bread and yeah, I got a dessert, right?
Oh,
But
okay,
usually,
that's
at least
good.
for my mother, she loves to bake, and it was always a home baked cookie, right?
Yeah.
So at least, not that it's great for you, but at least it wasn't manufactured with a whole bunch of stabilizers and preservatives and whatever. It was baked from scratch, right?
Yeah.
So my advice is, yeah, the bread option. Now we talked about breads. White breads can be processed, but there's tons of options. Even here in Dubai, you can easily get sourdough bread, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I love
Right?
sourdough.
You can get, if your child likes like rye bread. Rye bread's actually been shown to be very beneficial and helps with insulin response rates in studies it's shown. Or just get your standard old whole grain bread, right? All of those, yeah, you're ingesting carbs, but first of all, most children they're still healthy, they're young, they're vibrant,
So
they
they
can
just
ingest some carbs.
yeah, they
Just make
burn
them
them.
healthier complex carbs, breads. Put a bread, put some cheese, on there and some kind of meat, right? And you're good to go. Or an egg, depending upon refrigeration, obviously, but you can use some
Yes.
kind of egg product, which are
Like
awesome.
boiled
Boiled
egg.
eggs
Yeah.
or egg salad sandwich, made from scratch, all that kind of stuff. Your fruit, your vegetable, you're good to go. Now, The one thing about that will I would say is if you can try to get milk. Either hopefully the school will provide milk or
Okay.
you can do milk as long as your child isn't lactose
Yeah,
intolerant,
that's
right?
very important.
So
Mine is.
for if they're intolerant, forget what I just said. Okay.
Okay.
But you can get but there you can get lactose free milk. There
Yeah, it's
is lactose free
available now.
right.
Yeah.
So you can get that. That wasn't around when I was a kid. But the advantages of milk are huge. They've actually done studies. Um, so they did these studies with athletes that had to have, we can get talked later on about high protein, but you needed
Yeah,
protein in your diet. And athletes often need higher than even the general population needs.
obviously.
And so often they have to supplement because they just can't get it in
That big
normal sources.
amount. Yeah.
So we've all seen like the whey protein shakes. Well, they substituted milk for the
Oh,
protein shakes, and basically the response was almost the same,
wow.
right? So milk is a very good um, provider of not only calcium but also protein. And a lot of children, they love the carbs, right? They're very picky eaters. Children at
Yeah, at
that
that
young
day age.
age
Yeah.
tend to be very picky. It can be really hard to get enough protein that they should have into their diet. But if they can tolerate milk and like milk, and you know what? They still make it today, but
What's
here I would
that?
even do chocolate milk if I had to just to get the milk into them. But try to
Yeah.
find one that's low in sugar. They used to have like Ovaltine when I was a kid. But anything to make it palatable, because what we're trying to do here is, we're making one little
Change.
change, or
Yeah. Alteration.
maybe not the ideal,
Mm-hmm.
but for a good benefit, which is to get that healthy milk into them. Or and of course, water is always a great choice.
Oh, definitely.
So hydration is important, but
It
milk does
is key.
hydration too.
You make it look or sound like really easy.
Well,
Yeah.
takes planning. It
Yeah,
does take
it
planning.
takes planning. It
Yeah.
takes planning. That's the thing. Like with training and everything else.
Most things in life take a little bit of planning if you want to do it well.
Yeah, planning or having an action plan and our diet changes. That will be our topic for our next episode. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Jim.
been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.